All right. Hello. Welcome, campers. Awesome to have everyone here for TrueFire's rock soloing camp tonight. We've got some really cool stuff coming up here. We've got Angus Clark and Chris Buono in the house, actually in their house, but they're here to share some rock wisdom with all of you guys. So a really cool thing about these TrueFire camps is that this entire camp, everything we do tonight, is going to be put into a course. So when this is all said and done, we are going to take all of this amazing content, all of the variations and examples that they're going to show us. We're going to tab those all out, make them all beautiful in tab and standard notation, provide you with the jam tracks and all of the video, all of the cool comments that they're going to talk about, and any questions that you ask. So if you've got questions for our artists tonight, please put those in the chat. Once we put all that together and we have the magicians backstage at TrueFire that make this whole thing into an amazing course that you can download and play in the TrueFire player with slow-mo and tab sync and all the cool tools, you'll get that whole course as a download. If you want to buy it tonight, you get it for 50% off. So check out the pre-order code right below the chat. You can go download or basically pre-order this thing, and as soon as it's ready to go, well, you'll be notified and you'll get it as a download. So it's a very cool way to not only watch us, but get it all so you can work on it later. And I know there's going to be a lot of great stuff here because these are two amazing artists at TrueFire, very super popular artists at TrueFire. So we're excited to have them both here. My name is Jeff Sheets. I am the Director of Education here at TrueFire. And I want to start off by just giving you and I'm not even have to give you much information on our first artist because you already know. Angus Clark, we love him. We've worked with Angus for several years. He's got numerous courses out. He's done the Hard Rock Survival Guide series. I mean, just a ton of stuff. His radio rock solos is amazing. Great playing. We're going to be tapping into some of that and that knowledge here tonight. He's going to play several things. If you're one of the campers here, you already have access to some of the lessons that we've posted previously up here, the original lessons. He's going to show us some cool variations. So without me having to talk any farther, let's just bring Angus on board and I'll say, hey man, how you doing, Angus?
Doing great. Great to be here. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Awesome to have you, man. How have you been? You've been staying busy and keeping yourself keeping the chops up.
Yeah, it's amazing how busy we've all the guitar players have gotten, but we're all broadcasters now. So right. There's been a lot of tech learning that everybody's been going through, I think, but I feel like I've done my homework, so hopefully we won't have any technical issues at this point, and we've been enjoying using Zoom, and I'm glad we're using Zoom with TrueFire, and so I just want to make a great experience for everybody. Please chime in the chat box. I know we're going to be taking questions, and I heavily encourage that because this is all about the interaction, so the more we get from you folks, the better we can make this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know we got a ton of people watching right now already. So let's talk a little bit about what you're going to be sharing with us tonight. So the first lesson, the first thing that you're going to talk about is something that's really important. That's mapping out your solo, or how to map out a solo. So tell us a little bit. Give us an overview of why that's important to you and kind of how you look at that. What do you think about when you're talking about mapping out a solo?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started using that phrase in developing maybe the lead survival guide, or at some point when we moved on from just doing licks courses to doing something more about, how do I make the solo actually work? Because that's one of the things that doesn't get that much coverage. And it's just like a song has a form or a map, if you will, like, verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus, out, whatever that map is. Inside of that, your solo needs a smaller map that takes you from where you come in, which is if it's the end of the second chorus or from out of the breakdown or whatever it is, to that next point. Like, is it the ride out solo, or does it bring you into a breakdown? And for that reason, the map may have to peak at some point before the end. Or you may want to have the whole solo build to the highest point right at the end, and then that pays off into something else. Or it's a ride out, and you just keep playing until the tape runs out. Those are some of my favorite solos. And or maybe you start big. You start with super energy, and then so that's the map. And once you have an idea of what the map is, then you start fine tuning, like this lick here, or this kind of lick here, this one's not right, and it gives you a guide to create something that has a great energy flow that fits into the song.
Awesome. Well, I know you've prepared a couple of variations on the original lesson, right? And the first one's about mixing blues and MIXOLIDIAN. So give us a little overview of that, and then we'll roll that track.
Yeah, this first one is total Michael Schenker bag of tricks. I'm going to be completely out in the open with what that's about. And the idea here is there's a start with a statement, and then it gets down, and then it gets back up, and then it finishes off with blues licks. So it's kind of a mix of blues licks and with a little bit of major third MIXOLIDIAN stuff happening. So let's hear it.
Yeah, I love it, man. We come out smoking right out of the gate with the first variation. So break that down for us a little bit. Show us kind of what you're doing, how you're building that up, kind of where you're going on the neck with that, so we kind of get a better feel for what you're thinking in your mapping strategy there.
Cool. Well, I'm going to use kind of a mid-gain tone here, just so I'm not kind of here. Demonstration volume, if you will. And most importantly, I'm going to
slow it down. So the first lick comes in here on the pentatonic. Well, let's say it's the MIXOLIDIAN. Fooled you.
Here we go. I'm back. Real time. So we start out with signature Schenker thing. If you think of an E dominant 7 chord like this, I start with that 3rd and 7th right up here top. And that's just this is all from Pack It Up and Go from the UFO album Obsession. So if you haven't listened to that record, you could go and listen to that like 10 times over, and you'd be kind of reliving me at 15. So I start out with that. Then I play more bluesy, which is really kind of a lick that's in the original version in the chorus. And then, and this is classic Schenker, I shift registers. So I start out here with this MIXOLIDIAN dominant 7 sound, then a blues sound, then blues licks. And in Pack It Up and Go, Schenker does this. Which is a classic repeater. And you can repeat that as many times as you want. In this solo, I really only play it once, and then I do a big descending blues lick, all triplets. And that's kind of indicative of like my kind of blues licks. You know, it's just kind of, it's like takes you all the way from the G all the way down. It's the whole box, and you know, it just kind of gets you all down to that low E. Now at this point I do another total Schenker move, which is, again, I jump octaves, so I go from the lowest note on the instrument to the highest note on the instrument. And you hear Schenker do this all the time, so that's what I did. It's still kind of in that just a blues context, and then these are all just kind of my bag of tricks, blues licks. I do these bends where you grab 2 strings. You're really only playing one of them, but you kind of hear the second one, so it creates overtones. And there I'm going from, kind of the upper extension of the pentatonic box in there. And then, oh, what's the next lick? Oh, yeah. So here, I start with a blues lick, pattern lick, which you can pick up in my pattern rock soloing course, Jeff. I believe it's in my pattern rock soloing course. And it's triplets. And then when I get to the top, I'm doing this thing from the G down to the D. And then I change the G to a G sharp. So you really just switch it from the blues scale to like a MIXOLIDIAN. Everybody's got a different name for this, so I'm not even going to try. But you folks just move your pinky up a fret. And now here, the backing track, it switches to an A chord. And so in order to create a thematic quality to the solo, I do the same thing on the downbeat of the A chord that I did at the downbeat of the solo. So at the downbeat of the solo on the E, I play that third and seventh of the dominant 7 chord up high. So now the downbeat of the A. So it's just like in any one of the blues courses on TrueFire, that's how you comp in a blues between the 1 and the 4 chord. So I just do that on the downbeat of that A chord. So that part comes out with a certain amount of drama, right? Because you're like... And then, to be honest, I was going to try and play a descending 4s lick in the style of like Schenker on like the Lights Out album by UFO, but the tempo was too demanding, so I changed it to triplets. So here I'm in A MIXOLIDIAN, and it's... And then it's just blues licks. Sorry, it's just blues licks, and the last one ends, it's all triplet blues licks, so it's very similar to what I did down here. And it's over, so it's very tight. There's a lot of stuff going on moment to moment, but it definitely moves from straight up blues licks to incorporating MIXOLIDIAN, and then straight up blues licks and MIXOLIDIAN. So there you go.
Perfect, man. That's awesome. So good stuff. We've got a couple questions, and the one question is this. It's basically would love some tips on phrasing and leaving space. And so how important is that when you're talking about mapping out a solo, right? That whole phrasing and space. How important is that to make that happen?
Yeah, all the solos you're going to hear today are pretty jam-packed, so I can't say that there's too much space in these kind of like 35-second long 16-bar forms that I did today. So that's a great question, because if I was going to, we'll see over the course of this hour what I did in all of these solos. There's a lot of stuff in there. I think that the sense of space in pop solos, pop rock solos, is a very subtle thing. One of the solos that I always used to teach was the solo from Badge that Eric Clapton played with Cream. And it feels very like, relaxed, in that there's a phrase, and then there's another phrase, and there's another phrase, and feels really fluid, but really he's almost going like the whole time. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is create the sense of space when you have like a big moment, like at the top. That's like about as much space as I'm ever going to leave you in the pop rock solo, because then it's, very in your face. But then I think of the blues licks as being more spacious, right? And then energy, 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 downbeat of the A chord, little bit of space, and then blues, 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 fast blues, fast blues, fast blues, fast blues, tonic, and you're done. And I mean, this is just my mental process kind of flowing out, but you will see my phrasing is very downbeat to downbeat, and I'm hitting key moments, and that's where you create the space, is just at the landing. It's like, oh, whew, and then let's go. That's kind of how I think of it.
There you go. Awesome. Good answer. So let's do one more. Let's do one more question here. So even with your solos, how much, the question is, how much of your solos are what they say choreographed or mapped out, and how much are improvised? For example, even if you have a map, right, how much variation is there from one gig to the next, or one time you play that solo to the next? Even if there's a map, are you improvising, or are you pretty much sticking with the map and the solo notes?
Well, it depends on the gig. Like I would have, I think this last TSO tour, we were playing a Sabotage song, Handful of Rain, and like I got the solo on it, and I had a notion of what I wanted to do, and then I got a little bit bored of what I had decided on, and then I made a couple of variations. So it's like I watch footage, because I religiously watch the footage of myself, sorry. And like if it's anywhere in the first 10 days of the tour, I'm like, oh, I'm not happy with that, But then I finally got it on lock, and it worked. You get the one that locks, and the only thing that's going to go wrong is you didn't get the pinch harmonic like just right. It's like, oh, that I didn't. That's supposed to sound like Zakk Wylde, and it didn't. In a big production show like that, a worked out solo is your best friend. Everybody's going to pace themselves around it. Lighting's going to be paced. Everything is going to be paced around the solo being the same. If you're worried you don't know what's going to happen next, then you put not only yourself at risk, but you may put other people at, because it just changes. Like, oh, I always walk here and then I play, and then I walk there and then I play. And if you change what you're playing, you might forget to walk where you're supposed to walk. And then you're like, there's a lot going on. Yeah. Pyro. So on that gig, not a lot of improvising. In terms of the solos that I came up for this, it's a mix. It's like I do a couple takes, Oh no, this is too organized. Make it messier. Do a couple takes. This is no energy. The phrasing's too repetitive through this part. Let's change it, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then you come out with something that you like, and you're like, okay. Sometimes that's the second take. Sometimes that's the 50th take. It's a process.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I know we're going to go into this next variation, but we got one question about what you just explained and the breakdown of this, which is, were you playing E MIXOLIDIAN or A MIXOLIDIAN over the A chord?
I was playing A MIXOLIDIAN over the A chord. So I changed from having a G sharp to having a G natural. Right? Gotcha. It was so E MIXOLIDIAN up there would be, and A MIXOLIDIAN would be,
very cool.
Just very one cool. Note different. Just
one
note different.
That's the magic one. That's the one that was required. All right, man. So that's our first variation of the first lesson. So let's look at the second variation. The second variation is talking about modal soloing, sort of a modal soloing approach. So give us a little overview, and then let's roll the track for what you're thinking on modal soloing on this stuff.
Cool. Well, so this solo started out as me thinking, man, I should take this one full-blown MIXOLIDIAN, and I'm going to take every lick is going to come straight out of Gary Moore's version of Shapes of Things. And that's where I started. I was like, everything in it is going to be, people are going to recognize every lick. It's going to sound exactly like Shapes of Things. And then I started doing that. I was like, it didn't really work out like I thought it was going to. So I just went for big MIXOLIDIAN melodic statements out the beginning. And then that took me to a place where I was like, well, now that I'm playing diatonic, I can play some fast legato stuff, and you can see where I kind of latched onto that idea and took it way farther than I probably should have. So let's watch.
Awesome. Very cool. So yes, indeed. Awesome, man. So I couldn't agree more with that audience you have in your apartment there. So tell me, man, let's break that down a little bit and show kind of what you're doing there, because that's awesome sounding solo. So let's see what you got there.
All right, cool. Well, if it's all right, I'll just demonstrate it without the Charvel. I'll just
sure.
No whammy bar on the Les Paul. All right, so I love doing things with octaves and open strings. As soon as you're playing more than one string, you have more sound coming off the guitar, and there's a messiness to it that I like. So I start with these octaves, which it's really better that I did it on the Charvel, because octaves aren't the most reliable thing on a Les Paul, but not saying that we haven't played great solos in octaves on Les Pauls. So I'm really just playing up the scale with a kind of a melodic pattern. Kind of that kind of pattern. Now, then the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to go back down the scale, but I wanted to do this kind of sitar open string versus the fretted string. So it's really just the melodic, the MIXOLIDIAN scale up and then back down. It's just on the way up I do it octaves. And then on the way down. And one thing that I found was that as I was cutting it, was that the transition between those two things, octaves and then the open string, required some finesse, because I was like here, and then to switch to this, I had to bring that open string in early. It was like a tricky thing. You can see me kind of bring it in with my second finger. That was just problem solving. I was like, wow, this sounds empty for a second when I'm not playing more than one string at the same time. How do I do that? So I got to start making noise with that. Just start making more noise. And so once I got there, so I went up the MIXOLIDIAN scale and down the MIXOLIDIAN scale, and then I said, all right, well then let's just do a lot of MIXOLIDIAN stuff really fast. So, and I know that Chris is going to be doing legato later, so I'm sure he's got a much deeper layer on this, but I'm just going to show you this kind of melodic legato approach that I've used on diatonic scales. It's like maybe one of the first things I figured out how to do fast. And so it's based on, let me just start it someplace simple so that what I'm doing is pretty clear. If we're let's see, yeah, if we're like here, so this is a E MIXOLIDIAN scale. I'm starting from a G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B. And so if you play that as triplet, you get, as a sextuplet, you get, okay, but the pattern I'm doing adds a nested triplet between, instead of this, I play, so instead of, you get, so again, the overlying theme is sextuplets, da-ba-da-da-ba-da. but I'm nesting a triplet in the first one, so I get delia da-ba-da. Delia da-ba-da. Yeah, that's what it is, right? Okay, now, I mean, this is the kind of thing, it's like, it's ergonomic, right? So it's just like something that your hands can do. I'm not saying, oh, Angus, he plays sevens. Please don't ever say Angus plays sevens. It's just a thing you can do with your hand, and you wind up with this nested triplet inside a sextuplet. So I just basically use that all the way down the scale. So the first three just go down. It's a 2-string pattern, straight down the top 2 strings. Then I start moving across strings. And it might not be exactly that, but I'm sorry if I don't remember it exactly. The idea here is, Jeff and I were joking about this, classic, somebody will tab this out and it'll be available for you later. Right, Jeff?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, great. So fine. So, but anyway, this is my process. This is how I would come with it. I need to get from here to there in X number of beats. And so it's going to be, and I literally had to, do I need to start here? Do I need to start here? I'll start here. I mean, that would have worked. If that's not what I played, I'm sorry, but that would have worked just as well as what I played. And so then again, we've done a lick that gets us all the way down to the low E string, which is apparently something that I favor. And so from that point, I can't remember what happens next in the solo, but essentially we go, let's see. It's most likely blues licks at that point. And then, oh yeah, so then on the downbeat of the A chord, very similar to the other version of the solo, instead of playing that tritone, the C sharp and the G, I play out of the A major pentatonic scale. So I'm playing the A and the C sharp, A and the C, and I bend the C to a C sharp. And then again, it's A MIXOLIDIAN. Just kind of a blues licky kind of a thing. And then we're pretty much back. Then I just play random blues lick at the back end of it, right? It's just am I right? I think I'm right. Perfect. I can't remember. But we're pretty much done at that point, you know. Yeah. Oh no, there's one other lick. Oh, that's right. Out of the low E, dive bomb, and then the Gary Moore lick. So that's the Gary Moore part, right? And then and all of my mixed major and minor pentatonic stuff that's all Clapton stuff. So transcribe the Badge solo and Crossroads, and you'll find that lick in there somewhere. And that's it.
Somewhere. That's awesome, man. All right, so here's a question for you. So that lick, the triplet, the sixes with the triplet nested in there. So here's a question for you. What would you suggest for a player, an intermediate player, to try to get those kinds of licks down, to get a little bit faster at that and be able to do those cool things up to speed? How would you start somebody out with that, or what would you suggest they work on to develop that?
Well, so there's two things. One is it's best to play everything slowly and with a metronome, and to make sure that the volume of each note is as equal as possible. And this is true for legato and picked playing. Make sure that where you're accenting is on purpose. Now, if you watch when I play that legato run, you can see my right hand very clearly is just da 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 da. It's just very much in time. That's all here is just straight like eighth notes or whatever it is. But over here, I'm filling it in. So there's two levels. There's playing everything very slowly and very deliberately, and then there's speeding things up and playing things from here to there. So in other words, I got to get this many notes in between the clicks on the metronome, and am I hearing the big beat? And so you have to go at it from both directions. You have to start slowly with the metronome, slow legato studies, something, you take any scale and you could do the 2-string patterns up and down the neck. If we're in E MIXOLIDIAN with an E here, we can start with, right? And then, so then you just, that's, you know, that's just kind of a fun thing. You speed that one up. And then for this exact pattern, you can just practice it exactly. And then, as I said, when I start moving it across strings, I start sliding around. So it would be like, and the one of the things that's being used there is targeting. So again, when I talk about playing from here to there, you also have that notion of targeting. Like, what do I have to do to target landing at a specific spot? Where do I want to start the next da-da-ba-da-ba-da? And then here, and then there, and then there. And that way you can build up a larger phrase. But the larger phrase is just a product of having mastered the you know, from the metronome going slowly, then how do I fit the notes into the big beat, then how do I start targeting from pattern here to there to there, and it's just building blocks. That's how you get there.
Perfect. All right, I got one more quick question for you. It's the easy one. Everybody, it's the standard question. What kind of strings do you use?
Man, I'm a D'Addario guy, and you better believe they're the best strings out there.
Awesome. What size of strings do you use?
I use a couple different ones. So there is the this Les Paul. Most of my Gibson scale guitars are 11 to 49 for standard and E flat. We'll talk about the song I used the Les Paul on in the lessons. I almost put 10s on it to get through that one. So it's 11 to 49 on Gibson scale guitars. My Fender scale guitars are all 10 to 46. And then if I in standard, and then if on Fender in a drop tuning like an E flat, it'll be like 11 to 49 or 11 to 52. Because some of the things I've done where I've been in D standard, like for Joe Lynn Turner, we were in D standard on a Strat, and the Jackson Adrian Smith model that I play in the TSO show is for the Mountain, and in that song I'm tuned down to D standard. So those would be 11 to 52s. And if I have to do drop C, I'll put a 54 on the bottom string. So, and at TSO, there's a lot of singers, and they always want the songs in different keys. So you have to have a guitar tuned to every half step between E and C sharp. That's a hot tip right there. I know it's it's way more expensive than buying a drop pedal or using a capo. But I'm much more comfortable that way. Oh, we're changing the key here. Give me another guitar.
That's the way to do it, man. That's living the dream right there, baby.
I can't do it that way at home, but I have them all sitting here. So
right. All right, so good, man. Let's. We're going to jump into the next lesson because we're ready to go to this next lesson. But just want to remind everybody that's watching, that's tuned in, everything that Angus is demonstrating, all of the stuff he's talking about, we're going to take all of this stuff. We're going to chop it all up, TrueFireize it, put it into a TrueFire course that you can buy and own, download, play in your TrueFire player with slow motion, as you know, that'll make that slow part really slow.
Slow it down.
So we'll have the slow down capability. So that'll make that like subhuman hearing, that part right there. And then basically we'll have all of that stuff put into a course, and you can buy that course tonight, pre-order it. because you're here, because you're RSVP'd to this event, you can pre-order the course for 50% off. So later on, it'll cost you full price. But right now, you can pre-order. So go to the pre-order link right below the chat and order that up. Everything you've seen here so far is well worth that already. And we're only in the lesson 1. So, it's definitely good stuff, going to be worth it. So having said all that, let's go into your second lesson, right? Because the next thing we talk about that you're going to talk about here is something that I know is really important for you as a player, and we can hear it in your playing all the time, no matter who you're playing with, TSO or I think the last time we talked, you were playing with Share, and Share gigs were getting canceled because of all this crazy touring thing. And in those gigs, definitely playing melodic is important, right? You're playing with singers and playing with people that really appreciate a good melody. So this next lesson is really all about melodic soloing. So just give her a brief overview of, what that means to you, why melodic soloing is important.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's been said a lot. I say it a lot. So it's been said a lot by me, but a lot of people agree. Melody is king. Melody is king. A great melody that people can sing, that they take away from a song, that's the absolute king of all. You can have production elements that suck you into listening to a song. You have a great beat that you can dance to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the things that really stay with people the most are the melodic statements. And so for this original solo, the solo from the course that was already out, it's one of these radio rock courses. So I'm just thinking Neil Schon, because who else are you going to think of? I mean, it's Neil Schon. So he was one of the most foundational players for me in this context. I'm a huge Tony Iommi fan. It was Tony Iommi and Jimi Hendrix, like those guys. They're very melodic players in their own way. But in terms of this radio rock element that I've been kind of partial to with TrueFire, Neil Schon is kind of like the model. And one thing that he really shares with Clapton is, in a pop context, he is mixing major and minor pentatonic over major chord progressions. And one of the things when we're all learning and we're trying to figure out how to play bluesy sounding licks in pop tunes is what to do when you're in a major progression. Because you wind up playing, and no offense to Christmas carols, because I do a lot of playing Christmas carols. Sometimes you're like, I'm going to solo in a major key, and you're just playing like the Ionian mode or whatever, and you're like, man, it just sounds like a Christmas carol. That's not really what my heart is telling me I want to be playing in this context. It's pop music. There's got to be some heartbreak in there, and there's got to be this and that. So it's melodic playing. Let's go to the first example, because instead of going Neil Schon, I went for Jeff Carlisi from 38 Special, because you got to hold on loosely but don't let go. Let's hear it.
Sounds awesome. That's super melodic, right? That's super melodic. So break that down for us. Give us a little insight into that melodic machine you got going there.
So again, it's jam-packed. And it is a self-critique after I came up with these. I was like, these are great. And I watched all four of them. I was like, man, I played a lot of notes in every single one of these solos. And my phrasing is very repetitive. So I'm just as prone to self-critique as anybody else. In this one, so two of the greatest Gibson-style players that I love from this era, my first concert was REO Speedwagon, and I will take it to the bank that Gary Richrath is an amazing player. Huge shout out to Gary Richrath.
Oh yeah.
And he was great with nailing the pinch harmonic on a Les Paul, and so I still owe. Anytime I hear those licks, I'm just like, man, it feels like home. And the ride out, both the solo and the ride out on that song on Hold On Loosely, as performed by 38 Special, which I think is a Jim Peterick tune. Jeff Carlisi, man, just he had the pinch harmonics, and then he had a couple of really hot licks, and I was like, man, you know, I was trying to. This is like I almost put tens on the guitar trying to get through this one. So, what happens in there? So I start here. Watch it. I can't. I did it. So I did it every take the day I cut the solo, and watch me not be able to do it now. It's awesome. All right, so something like that. So right there is a major pentatonic lick, and that's kind of like my trick. The thing I took from Clapton that I think is very prevalent with Neil Schon and a lot of guys is that kind of home base for the major pentatonic is still with your first finger on the first string on the tonic. So like a lot of times we think of like G minor pentatonic is here, and then G major pentatonic is here, right? Like the 3 fret trick, you know. I start with the tonic here with my first finger, and then I start with the pentatonic here. But that's not really what Clapton does. Clapton starts both of them here, and so the minor one is like this, and the major one is, so you just, you know, that's the major pentatonic, that's the minor pentatonic. They're both right there under your fingers at all times. And so that's kind of where I like to go with it. So little trick right here, I play the open G, and then I play the fretted G. And it's always nice to use an open string to execute a position change. Now, this next bit is a pattern straight out of the Jeff Carlisi thing. Right, that kind of thing. And then I kind of was like, how do I get more energy out of that? And I said, well, let's just make it like a double picking pattern. So it's essentially, it's all scalar, but it's all double picked. And it's kind of going on a little too long. You're like, it builds tension just because the pattern is kind of like, when's he going to stop doing this pattern? And that's when I pay it off with the Jeff Carlisi money lick, which I think I'm at a brighter tempo than the 38 Special thing. And I think that in the video, I see Carlisi doing this pattern if I did it in G, like. But I could not get that clean at this tempo. So then you got to go into problem solving mode and just be like, well, how can I get it? And I said, well, let me stretch out the pentatonic. And I'm pretty sure that stretching out the pentatonic was not in Jeff's bag of tricks, but I don't want to. I'm just saying it wasn't a 70s thing to do. It wasn't an 80s. That's a very 90s thing. So I play the G up here, the E here, the D here, and then the C, B, C part I play in the next string. And that's that lick, and Carlisi uses that. It's in the key of E on the 38 Special tune, but it's. And then I get into major pentatonic land. And then I do the Neil Schon. This is the Neil Schon position shift. Something like that. He kind of double picks a note in there somewhere. So out of that part, I've done a lot lot of notes at that point, right? And it's almost like this part, is so repetitive that it's kind of like a respite. Like you're like, oh, that's like a big statement, okay? And then there's a little more scalar stuff, but then you got to hit them, you know, full-blown Gary Rich rap. Keep on rolling, right there, right? That's all I'm thinking. And then you hear me do oh yeah, I do stretch finger fours, which is a favorite of mine. So that I'm doing descending fours. It's just that you do them with a stretched fingering. But I don't do it down that far. And that right there is the tip on how to end in the major key. Because you saw in the other solo when I was in E, I went, and now I go, this, you know, I do it a lot.
We call that your style, I believe. That's how that works, right? That's your style. You developed your style. You're not stuck in a rut. You've got a style.
Exactly.
All right, man. So let's do a couple quick questions. I know we got one more lick to get to. We want to get to that, but a couple quick questions. Do you ever use hybrid picking on that faster stuff, or are you picking every note with the pick?
It's mostly every now and then I'll use some hybrid picking to get through a string crossing thing or something like that. Sometimes I just like the feel of it. But for I don't think there's any hybrid picking in this. It's mostly just it's like again it's kind of a finger strength thing. Like I'm picking maybe less often than you might think I am in some cases. You know, which is one of those things we found out about Yngwie, like much later. You know, after all these guys had mastered how to pick every note, Troy Grady finally explained to everybody that Yngwie's not picking every note. And it's like, oh.
But bummer, I spent all that time, right?
Exactly.
I've been locked in my room for like a year.
So I do love hybrid picking. Like I couldn't really come up with it. If you're doing like pedal point stuff and things like that, that didn't cross my mind. That didn't feel appropriate to the solos I played on this this particular course, Jeff.
There you go. Well, we're only all about appropriateness here. So let's do one more question. You know, any tips on accurately and always hitting the pinched harmonics? How would you say? How should someone?
Not tonight.
I hated to ask you that after you just got done saying that, but you know, what would you suggest for someone to, you know, just get better at that pinched harmonic thing?
You know, it's so funny, man, because like you can spend time. I remember, you know, you go see Eric Johnson do it, and you're just like, man, like I play a thing with 6 strings on it, and he plays his thing with 6 strings on it, but like that's where the similarity ends, you know, like he knows where they all are through like all of this. I think, you know, probably what was different the night I was cutting this, I was using right now I'm using my Axe Effects, that I was using S-Gear for when I cut it, which I highly recommend both products, but S-Gear is significantly less expensive. And it's probably just how I was sitting. I was probably like, see? There you go. So like it's, you know, the physicality of it is one thing. So you can look for it and, you know, map it out and figure it out. But then once you get yourself into your playing position, your strap height, or if you're playing sitting down, et cetera, then just the physicality of it is going to start to reinforce. It's just like on like strats with vintage pickups, the magnet under the B string is so low that as time goes on, you start playing the B string harder than the other strings because the tone is in your ears. Like your hands are only doing what they need to do in order to satisfy your ears. So that's you know what happens. Like if you want that pinch harmonic, and you know where it is and you start training yourself how to do it, your ears will make your hands do the right thing after a while.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, man, we've got one more lick of variation, one more variation to get to here. So let's just talk a minute about it, and then we'll roll the video. But this is the SCHON inspired lick, basically. So tell us where this, we know where this comes from, but tell us what you're thinking on this one.
This is like totally the ride out from Any Way You Want It. And you know, this song was featured in Rock of Ages. I always loved the song. And just the history there is, you know, like I remember buying the Escape album on vinyl, right? And is Any Way You Want It even on that record? That's the one with Don't Stop Believing on it. But anyway,
no, right. That's Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah. So,
anyway,
but
it's on Departure.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, Escape was the one I first bought, and then like I fell in love with the entire rest of the catalog and loved the way Greg Raleigh sings, and, you know, all that stuff, right? And you know, I physically remember having it on vinyl and watching the turntable spin around and just be like, this is so awesome. And so then, but Any Way You Want It was like a big feature in Rock of Ages, which I did for 6 years, and now the band from the Rock of Ages show does concerts, or will be doing them again once everybody's playing again. And you know, and every time we get to play that song, it's just awesome, man. From getting to sing harmony with everybody at the top, and then getting to play the ride out and everything. And so so I use a bunch of that stuff. So let's check it out.
Yeah.
There's no resting in that song.
No, there's no space, but it's a feel good, man. It's a feel good solo. So show us what you're doing there.
So, and just from a map point of view, I would have to say like this solo and the last solo have the same map, essentially, right? I kind of start here in the 5th position, and then I kind of work my way down to the tonic, and then I kind of build until we get to something much higher and much bigger. So it's a similar map, but in this case, instead of starting on the tonic with the pinch harmonic like I did in the last one, right? The last one was here. Here I start on the 5th. And that half step bend, you gotta love the half step bend with your first finger. You're just melting hearts and minds when you play the half step bend with your first finger. And then I get down to the tonic, and then so this I think this is something like what Neil does on the ride out. And really I'm using the open G string, and I'm playing I'm fretting thirds. So it's just and then so that was just a G major triad. That was D, B, G, and then E, C, G, F, D, G. Oh no, F sharp. Sorry. I don't even remember. But anyway, I get up to here. And then I get all the way up to here. And then there's some the most Neil thing of all that stuff. I think the most Neil thing is the like that thing. It's like it's a mixed major minor. I mean, that's kind of that's the whole thing, is how he works, how Neil would work in the minor third and the flat 7 at just the right time in the midst of all this major, you know, in order to get that soulfulness into it. And it takes the melodicism to a whole other level, because then you just you're just like major, bluesy, gotcha. And that's, you know, again, if you're gonna start pulling at the heartstrings with that first finger, then when you get up high and you hit them with that minor, game over, man. Game over. You're done. So anyway, that's all. Let's take some questions, man, because I'm just yakking at this point.
That's all right, man. That's what it's all about. So let's here's the question on that, right? Which is, when you're doing that, you know, doing the major pentatonic or to minor pentatonic, how much of that is just you're hearing it and feeling it, and how much is, you know, what chords going on underneath and you know what's going to work over that? So where are you coming at from that? More of an intellectual standpoint, or is it more of just it feels right and you've done it so many times that you just do it?
That's totally like, it feels right. And I've done it enough times, and I was probably a couple takes where I was like, "Ooh, it doesn't feel right there. Let's try it again." You know, there's certain strategies for that. Like if you know, like there's a couple solos that use it super well, right? So the Badge solo by Clapton, it's amazing, and then there's some Angus Young solos that do that just super well. You know, like he does that, I think in Shook Me All Night, right? He's like, that's like all you need to know. Like anybody who wants to ask me, like, how do we mix major pentatonic? It's just like, it's a song. It's called You Shook Me All Night Long. There's a couple licks in there. You learn those. And that's pretty much all I know about it, you know. And then the Badge is very cleverly ending. Oh, let's just, come on. There we go.
Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. Everybody loves it when you mix major and minor pentatonics.
All right. Enough of that.
Yes, we do. We love it, and we love it when you push that little button over there. It's an amazing thing, man. That's awesome. Well, dude, we could talk all night, and I know we have, and we may again. But we have to wrap this up. You know, appreciate all of your amazing, you know, insight here, because this is, you know, just really good stuff. I know you're probably, you have mastered being a broadcaster now, but you're probably ready to get back out and do some live playing and do some shows as well, because I've seen you do that many times and you are excellent at it. So certainly looking forward to seeing you get back out there, and, you know, really looking forward to bringing you back down to the actual studio, you know, and recording some stuff when that's an option, which it hasn't been. So, but thanks so much, man, for being here.
Thank you, and I can't wait to get back down there. And just so everybody knows, I am, you know, now I'm set up to kind of film. I'm putting together a bunch of lessons, and I've got the channel set up. I just need to load it up. After I've got the first batch of lessons loaded up, my TrueFire channel, which is called Into the Arena, will be launched, and I can't wait to get interactive with more of the good folks at TrueFire. I so appreciate you, Jeff, Tommy, everybody that's there, that's been able to keep this going by hook or by crook. get us all broadcasting and together and keeping the students engaged. It's been great, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And I'll definitely, if I don't know if you can, Jeff, you can rewatch it, and I can watch the questions on the rebound and kind of get a sense of how it all went. That would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it went awesome. And yeah, well, everyone who's watching should definitely jump into your channel once that channel launches, because all of this cool stuff that you're doing here, there'll be that in there and lots more. So thanks, man. Thanks again. And we'll do this again soon.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thanks. That was Angus Clark, everyone. Of course, many of you folks that are watching, know Angus from his many TrueFire courses. And yeah, as he mentioned, he's going to be launching this amazing channel. So very cool, but don't doze off on me, because we're just getting started here in TrueFire's Rock Soloing Camp, right? We are only halfway through this thing, and we've got a real treat coming up, because we've got Mr. Chris Buono, who will be here in the house shortly. I am Jeff Sheets. I am the Director of Education here at TrueFire, which means I get to work with all these amazing artists and get to talk to them about music all the time. And it's just a real pleasure to be able to do. Remember, all of this stuff that you're watching tonight, all of the banter, all of the special effects that Angus is using, all of the tunes, all of these new variations that he's showing are not, this isn't stuff from a course. All of the variations that both he and Chris are going to be showing tonight are new stuff, new lessons. We're going to take that stuff, we're going to tab it all out, we're going to put it together in a TrueFire course. So you'll be able to download it, do the slow-mo, it'll be tab synced, tab standard notation. All the jam tracks will be available. They're just like a TrueFire course, and that will come out, and you'll be able to download that if you go right now to the link for the course. You should buy the course, because right now tonight you get it on pre-order for 50% off. So, right, I mean, TrueFire has a lot of great sales, but 50% off as a pre-order is beyond a great sale. That's a special deal, because you guys all RSVP'd and you showed up here tonight. You get to order the course for that. So as you found, right, what we've seen tonight already is amazing and well worth the price of admission. And we're just going to double that now. We're going to double down with our next guest. So go check that out. This will not be available on demand like many of our live events we do. And we do all the crazy live things. But this, you got to buy this so you can get all of the downloadable stuff, right? When you get this, you won't just be able to pull this up on YouTube and get all the cool goodies that go with this. So you want to buy this so you'll have all the tab and jam tracks and everything to play with. So we're going to talk a minute about our next artist, right? Because he's a long time TrueFire artist, has 837 TrueFire courses out last time I counted. I don't know if that's true, but he's got a lot, right? Over 30. There's a lot of courses there that Chris Buono has done. He has, of course, his amazing guitar gym series. So if you're somebody who's looking to, beef up your playing and you need to work on your technique, and let's face it, who doesn't, right? You want to really fine tune and hone your technique. His guitar gym courses alone, just buy a set of those and you're good to go. Your technique will become better instantly. Chris is also about to launch his own TrueFire channel, which is basically a guitar gym based channel that is got amazing stuff in there. As always, Chris is an overachiever, and he's got more videos in there than a person could possibly watch in 2 lifetimes, and he's going to offer it all at a great price. So look for that soon. But without further ado, let's just jump into this rock with Chris Buono. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Jeff. What's happening?
It's rock night here at TrueFire, and we're excited to have you, man. How you been?
Very good, sir. Thank you for the introduction. I think it's 859 courses.
Okay, there you go. There's probably been a couple that snuck past me.
Exactly.
Thanks, awesome, man.
Tuning in, and thank you, everybody at TrueFire, for doing what you're doing tonight and what you've been doing. Like Angus said, it's been pretty awesome how you guys have corralled us all and made sure everybody's been staying productive during this time. So hello to everybody. Hello, Tommy, Ali, Brad, and yeah, let's
do this thing. Absolutely, man. Well, I'll tell you what, from our perspective, and I can vouch for everybody at TrueFire, we've always believed that any success TrueFire has had has always been because of the amazing educators and artists we work with. And it's no different now. So we're just feel excited to be able to facilitate, getting the students, which is the other half of the equation, right? Because we can teach all the cool stuff and have the amazing educators, but if we didn't have the amazing student base that we have, wouldn't make any difference. So we're excited to facilitate having those students have an opportunity to tune in to some of these things and basically be able to share some of these experiences with us. And so we're excited to be able to present this here tonight. And once again, to be able to offer this as a course and put all this together in a different way than we've put together courses in the past, but still be able to offer this to students so they can, check this out and just continue studying. So we're going to talk about tonight with you, man. This is Rock Night, and we're going to talk about legato, right? That's really what we're going to fine tune, and we're going to dial in about legato. So tell us a little bit about just the overview of legato, why that's important to you, and just some important things to remember as we're digging into these lessons.
Well, legato generally means smooth. So for guitar players, it's not uncommon for us to assume that we own it and it's our thing, and it only points towards guitar techniques like hammer-ons and pull-offs. But everybody, instrumenters or vocals, everybody will be trying to achieve legato in many instances. So it's how you get from one note to the next, and the smoother it is, the more legato like it is. So that could be done without these techniques, but the best way that we can achieve a legato sound is by using these things like pull-offs and hammer-ons and slides, and even bending can give off a legato feel. We're going to check out some variations of 2 lessons from my Take 5 legato course, which really went through it. Really put things into practice. Take it from my guitar gym, hammer-ons and pull-offs course. Putting that stuff into practice. And probably the most important thing, and I'll say it here, I've said it throughout those courses, is a light touch. All the stuff that we're going to do, that I'm doing in here, that I'll advise you to do, it's all based in a light touch. The more fluid and relaxed your hand is, the better that it'll play these techniques, and also the longer you can do it. The stamina is definitely dependent also on that light touch, because you can tire yourself out or fatigue yourself by digging in too much. So that's going to be one of the overall things. I'm also going to just put this out there now, because I'll repeat it again. When we get to the later lesson in number 5, I said it in the course, and I did some variations here that call upon the same warning. There's some stretching in here. Let's make sure that we're all playing safe, and we're not trying to do things that I'm doing here, because you got to keep in mind this hand has been doing this for a second, and it takes a while to ease into some of these things. So let's approach that with caution.
Awesome. Good advice. Good advice for that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So the first lesson that we did, the first variation, was sort of a 1 octave cell idea. So tell us a little bit about that. Give us a little overview on what you're thinking there, and then we'll roll the track.
So what I did with all the variations was coming up with something. I really took maybe new concepts. And this particular one, I'm using something I call 1 octave cells. It's something I talk about. It's actually basically how I presented Modes That Matter. I was demonstrating things in a 1 octave cell. It's a very good thing to do, because it keeps you secluded to one area, so you can really concentrate on what you're doing. So here, I'm taking advantage of that, where I can apply these legato techniques without getting lost and worrying about the 6 strings, and without worrying about moving too much. I can really work an area. So all the solos, this one and the other 3, I improvised all of these. I really wanted to show you what it's like when I just am allowed to let it go. So let's check this out, and then I'm going to walk you through what I'm thinking, what I was thinking. Also, I'm going to show you the map of what I was using to do those 1 octave cells. And of course, we'll have those all charted out for you, and you'll be able to see these right there as you're listening to the lesson, and the things I'm going to say here as you're watching it later. You're going to have it right in front of you.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So let's break that down a little bit. Give us a little breakdown of, you know, what you're playing there, some of the techniques, some of the things that we can take away from that.
So the progression I'm playing over is we could say this is in the key of B minor, you know, relative to D major. And the progression I'm playing is basically B sus2, D, and then some variations of let's just say A7 to keep it simple. So what I'm doing is, through this one, I'm playing 1 octave cells that are directly addressing the chords. So let's say in the first one, in the beginning, I'm here in the 7th position, and my 1 octave cell is this. So within there, I'm staying within there, and I'm taking advantage of 2 3-note per string areas, or fingerings: high E string, 2nd string, B string, and then we have the G string. And I'm going to work that area. I'm going to do that with all of the available cells. So, you know, we're working here, we're talking about 7-tone harmony. I have 7 cells that I can get to, you know, above and below this. So for instance, if I go the next fingering down from that one, staying within this key, it's right there. And I'm going to take the same approach. I'm going to lock myself in there. And that's going to really force me to be conscious and mindful and melodic about what I'm playing, instead of, you know, maybe rolling around, which is very fun, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's actually, I do that in the main lesson in the course. But what I'm trying to do here is lock in one area. And I am using hybrid picking. We'll probably get some questions about that, because I know that there were some questions about that with Angus too. I've definitely used some hybrid picking in this, and the reason for it is part technique and also part dynamics, because hybrid picking gives you a very snappy pick attack, something different than the pick itself. But that is what my general approach is to that. I'm definitely, I'll say I'm choosy about which 1 octave cells I do per chord. Some are more geared towards playing that chord better than others, meaning, why did I go here first in the 7th position for the B sus2? Let's think of it as B minor. Well, this is the 7th position. That big B minor chord is right there. So the chord tones in there are in places that are convenient for me to get to, like this. Flat 3, root, flat 3, flat 7. So I'll move accordingly to each one of the changes. For D, I would go down here, root, third, 5th, higher 5th. So that's the general approach to it. That self really forces me to discipline myself while using legato. I'm trying to find the best strengths of it, and it's a good way to do it, because if we give ourselves those 6 strings, guess what we're going to do? We're going to play them all, which is not a bad thing.
That's awesome, man. Hey, I got a request from Tat. Can you move just a little closer to your mic, or slide your mic, turn your mic up just a hair?
I could do both.
Perfect. We love it when you can do both. So we've got a couple questions we're rolling in, man. So we got one question is any tips on sort of, this is interesting because this is really related to legato playing. Any tips on maintaining the ends of your fingers to clean up anything that might catch on strings? You know, in other words, trimming your nails, rough skin around your fingers, calluses. How do you deal with that? Because that's an issue when you're dealing with legato, you know?
Absolutely. Well, okay, I'll key you in on a little secret or whatever, maybe just a personal habit. I'm pretty let's just say I'm pretty aware of the nail thing. But maybe other people have terms for that behavior. But I definitely keep an eye on it. What I like to do is, fret hand fingers, they're cut. They're cut. They're clean. I keep them short as possible. I can feel it. The playing will remind me, hey, I got to take a look at this because it doesn't feel right. If a nail is like even a little bit grown on this hand, not saying there's no white parts, but you know what I'm saying. Like as soon as it gets past a certain threshold, which doesn't take much, I'll get there. If it's, maybe it's a file or maybe it's a clip, whatever. On this hand, though, the hybrid picking hand, that does have, I try to get tight on the ends, but then have a little something coming off, like kind of a rounded thing. Not very long, but that contributes to tone and also just the way it feels when I do that. But back to the left hand, that's the big thing, is making sure there's nothing that, I want to feel fingertips only. That's it. There are times, as all of us will do something to our fingers. I do plenty of stuff, out in my yard, taking care of it or whatever. Just being a human, you get cuts and stuff like that. Of course, I try to minimize that, but when it happens, vitamin E, it absolutely really does whatever people think. It's great. You get it on there, Band-Aid, and I kind of a couple times a day, goop it on there, open up one of those capsules and get it on there, and you'll get skin back. You'll heal in about a day or two. And calluses come back much quicker than they develop from scratch. So that's also a good thing. So
awesome,
yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's good. Finger taking care of your fingers is important, right? So let's jump into our second example here, our second variation, right? So your second variation, the warp refraction zone, just sounds good to talk about, right? So tell us about that. Tell us what this is going to be, and then we'll roll the track.
Okay, warp refraction zone is a shout out to fellow TrueFire instructor John Finn. Who we were also fellow professors at Berkeley back when I was there. He's still there. I mean, a building would fall apart if he left. So he had a column in. It was Guitar for the Practicing Musician when they chopped off, I believe, for the practicing musician part of the title, and it was just guitar. You remember that? And he had a column in there, a monthly column, and it was great. And one of the articles he wrote was about the G and the B string, how they're tuned differently. And because of that, it's a great and an awful thing. So he called it the warp refraction zone, which was, really cool because, somebody had to name it and he did. And I never forgot that. So what I'm doing here is taking the idea of a cell and compressing it. And I'm also attacking a weakness, that zone. That zone is weird for everybody. So, but I found a way that it's really fun to play. And that's exactly what I'm exploiting here. So let's check it out and then I'll key you in on what I'm doing.
Nice. Yeah, so give us some insight there. That's an awesome solo, and it's kind of combines some different things, right? So you're looking at some very melodic kind of playing up front, and then getting into some really cool, nice, speedy stuff. So
the melodic part, when we were talking earlier this week, we all had a pre-production meeting for this. The term sweet notes was thrown out there, and man, every time you say sweet notes, it's like Robbie Calvo owns that. So the emphasis there, those chord tones are those, for me, that's the sweet notes. And same thing with the cells. I'm trying to emphasize those and get in places where it puts me in the best possible situation. So again, this thing is in the key of B minor, you know, relative to D. So however, whatever you're comfortable with thinking that. So I found, at least in diatonic harmony, that's where we're at now, that there's these two places that give you identical setups, and they're a lot of fun to play. So down here, we have this, and here's the, and this is the thing I was alluding to before, this. The trick that I'm doing is I'm putting 3 notes on the G string and 2 notes on the B string. So 3 notes on the 3rd string, 2 notes on the 2nd string. Wow, that just dawned on me. So that's a great way to remember that. So here's the 3 notes, and here's the 2 notes. Let's think of, you know, the lowest note on each one is the 1st finger. And then, you know, this one down here, the 3 notes is 1, 2, 4, which, by the way, that's a big thing for me with legato and playing in general. If I have 2 whole steps, I always go for a 1, 2, 4 fingering because of the independence. You know, 3rd finger is very dependent on the surrounding fingers. And it's something to talk about a lot in this course. So I have this area now, and it feels really fun to play. And again, because of the condensed amount of notes I'm allowing myself to play, I really have to be conscious and really have to be mindful and meaningful about what it is that I'm playing. So legato can be something where it's such a great tool, but you can easily lose control of it and just start flying off the handle, and next thing you know, you're not playing anything, you're just moving around, which is fun and not a bad thing when you do it the right way. So anyway, back to this. I have that, and then right next to it, I'm taking each one of the notes. You can think of it this way. I'm taking each one of the notes and moving it up the next scale set. So what I get on the 3 notes I get on the G string, or the 3rd string, is this. Whole step, half step. And then the 2 notes I have on the 2nd string is, again, a whole step. So that's pretty cool for my vision. You know, I have this constant thing on the 2nd string. And then I do have this varying thing on the 3rd string, but it has notes in common. Those 2. So when I get here to the 2nd area, that's what I have. Now, that same exact thing repeats itself a perfect 4th up, or 5 frets up. So 5 frets up puts me, my 1st finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. And again, I have 2 whole steps, and then the whole step on the 2nd string, which, by the way, check, and this is the warp refraction zone. This is what it does, and I'm taking advantage of it. Any other string set, if I did what I'm doing right here, my 1st finger would be on the same fret. So for instance, I'm going to lower this an octave. That 1st finger gets to do this, which is really great, you know, especially for a hybrid picking bass technique. Yeah, but it works really well here, and that's one of those it's one of those speedy licks. All I'm doing here is, yeah, I did that in there, definitely. That actually would be very difficult to do on the other string sets that are tuned in 4th. So I'm trying to get taking advantage of what this string set is affording me. And to finish this off, that's the same thing as it was down below. This connects to that and does the same thing starting here. This connects to this. So from there, I follow the changes and I put myself, just like the 1 octave cells, in the best place possible to exploit what I'm playing over. So I'll go to places that have, you know, that feel comfortable. The 1st chord is B minor. And actually started down here. There's the root right there. For D. Third and root. There's the fifth of the chord. And then for the A, it's really nice. You get this. You know, I played that phrase. And just a quick comment about both of these. You don't have to be locked into, say you're looking at the fingerings on the chart. You absolutely do not have to be locked into the fingering in the cell. For instance, I just stepped out of it to do this. You know, a nice young lust type of feel. I did a slide with the third finger. I didn't lock myself into only playing these fingerings, just as if I was playing a 1-octave cell. Let's say we'll go back to the first one I was showing you. I'm not locked into those fingers. Those fingers can turn into this on the high E string. It doesn't have to be 1, 3, 4. It could be 1, 2, 3. Of course, you know, we're going to get into this in one of the variations. We haven't even started talking about sliding yet. And sliding automatically starts throwing your fingering all over the place. Just think of a fingering really as a map. Underneath the fingering is locations. And those locations is what your map is. And you can manipulate those locations any way you see fit to play your legato ideas.
Awesome, man. Let's do a couple questions. All right, let's do a couple questions here. And the first one is a little bit, you know, this lick sort of explained it, but the first one was really about the first pattern, which was asking if, you know, you're mostly playing 3-note per string patterns, and I guess so to change that into what this is that helpful for playing legato lines and doing things? Is it the 3-note per string patterns? Does that help with getting this down as you're developing these sort of legato chops?
Yes, absolutely. 3-note per string is probably the sweet spot and a great place to start. I mean, we all start with pentatonic because it feels good. It's not complex to see the patterns and stuff, especially the mother of them all. We all gravitate towards that. It comes easily, but it is a 2-note per string thing, and that, you know, it's challenging to get your legato thing going on with that because you got to move around a lot. So with 3-note per string, you can work one string or a pair of strings. I mean, look. In this situation with pentatonic, you have 4 notes in a pair. It's not, and you run out of options kind of fast. You end up maybe having to repeat, which is great when it's the right thing to do. But with 3-note per string, you just have more variation. So 2-note per string, I got this. I can keep milking it, but add that third note to each one of the patterns. In this case, right there, and then that, and I got so many more options that open up to me. And you also have something I talk about in the course, rolling legato. You can't do that with 2-note per string. It just doesn't happen. 3-note is great. 4 notes, you know, if you can get that stuff going on. Oh, I hope Rusty Cooley's not watching. So, you know, it's just that many more, but it is tough. 4-note per string is tough. Whether you actually do the 4 notes or you're sliding to those positions, it's very tough. So 3-note per string is a great place to start. And when you do start going to those other strings, and you do start stretching out past something, it's all about 3-note per string. You know, we're all Joe Satriani fans, and learning his stuff is really good for developing this exact stuff, and it's a great place to start. You know, all his records are awesome. You know, but the solos though are very melodic. You know, really melodic stuff. It's a great platform to start from. So if you're looking for like a big vat of information when it comes to 3-note per string, look no further than Joe. Yeah, 3-note per string, definitely the place to start.
Awesome. Good info, man. Good info. So we got another question. Someone's been working with some of your Guitar Gym courses. You know, he's hitting a ceiling on speed, right? He just can't seem to break, 120 beats per minute without sending the right hand into autopilot. You know, so what are some tips for getting over that ceiling if you hit it? And it doesn't matter whether it's at 120, or if it's 80, or if it's 170, what would you tell someone if they feel like they're sort of maxed out and they're hitting the ceiling of speed?
I'll key you in on a trick that almost never failed me. Many moons ago, maybe some people remember, I was the headless guitar player for Guitar One magazine. So when you got your CD-ROM, there was this guy, at least for the last 2 years, who played all of the musical examples in the magazine, and that was me. So, you know, you can imagine month to month, I didn't have a month to play that stuff. I had about 2 days, 3 days. And sometimes guys like Troy Stetna and Greg Koch were sending lessons in that were extremely difficult. So I was hitting ceilings immediately. So the show must go on. It had to happen, especially back when I used to go to New York and film it. Like, that, you know, it's got to happen. There is no not doing it. Just like shooting a TrueFire course, when you come down, you got to make it happen. So the thing I did, I don't know how I figured it out, but I'd find the place where I'm totally maxed out. And what I would do is play it, you know, get my metronome thing going on, go below it. Let's say 10 to 15 BPM, 10 to 15 BPM, I'll go below it. And I would get my reps going on. 10 is always a number I think about, because I remember Steve Morris used to say, if I can play something 10 times in a row perfectly, I got it. And then I would move in my regimen, you know, my metronome work. Well, if that works for Steve, that works for all of us. So that was my benchmark. So I would move up, and I would do this in increments. I would give myself blocks. So I would start, let's say my target is 100, and I've knocked myself down to 90. So my first block would consist of 90 10 times, 91, 92. Then I would go back to 91 and do 91, 92, 93. Then I would go back to 93, 94, 95. Then I would walk away. That's a big one. I learned at some point, giving yourself that breathing room, that break, mentally and physically, does wonders. I can't tell you how many times I've been frustrated with stuff, playing and recording, whatever. Walk away, come back, and I've nailed on the first take. It's uncanny, and that was a very powerful thing to learn. So I incorporated that into my practicing. So I'll do my let's say, 3 of those sets of 3, 10 times each. Come back, I'll pick it up maybe at 91, because I started the first set at 90, 91, do my thing. 3 sets from 91, 92, 93. Keep doing these breaks and coming back to these sets. Okay, that's going good. But sometimes I always didn't make that ceiling. I would get to that target tempo or that threshold. Maybe it wasn't even the target, the tempo I had to play the exercise at. Well, what I would do, and this was another happy accident, however I figured this out. What I would do is I would actually raise the tempo of what I'm supposed to play, or that threshold. Usually what I was supposed to play, because I had to get this stuff together within 36, 48 hours. And I would hit that thing, warts and all, and try to, untrain wreck it as much as I could. But the thing that was going on was the mental trick, because what do you think it feels like after I, do this? I clean my own clock, I walk away, I've just beat myself up, I take my break, I come back, and then I start working underneath, close to that threshold. So let's say 100 was that threshold I'm trying to get to. And I just did my over-the-top tempo, 105, 110. Take my break, come back, hit that thing at about 98, do my reps, I'm playing at 100. And it feels great. I've tricked myself into relaxing, because I've already seen more chaos. I've already pushed myself, and now it feels like I'm not pushing as hard. And it worked, like I said, almost every single time. The one time, one maybe more, but one time I remember specifically where I just had to, oh my God, I'm going to have to think of something else, was a Michelangelo Badio lick that Troy had included in one of his lessons. And it was just a beast. It was an absolute killer. And when I met Michael once at the damn show, I brought that up very quickly. And in my New Jersey humor, I passed along what I thought about him because of that lick. And he didn't get that. And Steve Jenkins, kind of looking at the both of us like, oh man, where's this going? I got out of it, charmed him with something else, bought him a Heineken, and we were good. But that metronome trick works unless you're trying to play Michelangelo batting.
Awesome. Good trick. Well, I know that's something that, a lot of different athletes do. Like tennis players talk about that, about trying to get that serve over and over and over again. And then they take a break and they come back and it's like they settle back down and settle into it. So I definitely think that's something that's, when you're doing something physical and mental like that, it's like sometimes you just need a little space. So that's a really good advice there for the student that asked about that. So let's talk about your next lesson, because I know we still got a ton of people watching and everybody's chiming in and they love what you play. They love you. So hopefully they'll be buying the course. Once again, check this out. All of this stuff will be put together in a course where you can then download it to your desktop. It'll play on the TrueFire player, and you can get 50% off of it right now tonight. I think just until this camp is over. So probably only a half hour left to get. We should have a clock going. We should have the countdown clock. Use 28 minutes for savings. But you can check it out, and you can check the download coupon code, whatever we got. Just go below the chat and you'll be able to hit the pre-order and order it up. Okay, so that's definitely what we want to do, because we're about to get into one more lesson that Chris is going to go over from his course. Once again, this is stepping it up another notch, talking still about legato, but we're going to look at a variation here on the level 5 legato lesson. And this first variation is talking about symmetrical finger patterns. So tell us about that. What's symmetrical finger patterns mean for you?
So we're going to use symmetrical in a way that term is being applied to a fingering that is the same. So it's going across the strings with the same fingering and like vertically right across, like for instance, like this. Now, almost every time you do that, if you're playing over one single element, that's going to have varying effects to it. So there's going to be inside and outside notes. If you can find a combination where that works for you, it's golden. It's really great and liberating to play that way. Now, there's a couple things I got going on within this. First of all, the symmetrical part of it, which is a lot of fun to do. But also and this is the thing I was talking about before, the stretch. There's some stretching going on here, and it's based off the stretches I was doing in the original lesson in Take 5 Legato, but I took this to a completely different place. In that zone, I was giving you more of an arpeggio approach, and it was string skipping was involved. This time we're doing adjacent strings, and you're going to see how I manipulated symmetrical fingering, some completely symmetrical, some sectioned off, and we'll talk about that afterwards. But there is a bit of a stretch here. So most of what you're going to see me playing is going to be a perfect fourth stretch, though we are in the 12th position and above. So, obviously the frets are in our favor. So just let's keep in mind we're trying to play this safe. But let's roll it and check it out. And then we got some really cool stuff to delve into. This is a lot of fun, and it's a lot of the ways that I play, and I really enjoy doing this. So check it out, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So yes, definitely some stretching going on there. So show us how to get there.
Okay. So that progression, let's make sure I got this one right. Yes, that progression is in E minor, and it goes 1 to 4, E minor to A minor. So it's a natural minor thing. For the A section, there's 2 sections in this one, which, by the way, for our variation, I did something a little not different, but I enhanced that backing track. In the original course, well, in this one, I added 4 bars. I gave you another round of the B section, the rockin' part. It's a lot of fun to play. So it'll be cool when we're, you guys are going through this and stuff. You'll have an enhanced backing track to play, because it's a really fun part to dig in on. So in the A section, we're going A minor, E minor to A minor. I have this going on. I have a whole step, which I'm playing with my first and second finger. And then I have a step and a half from that second finger. And I'm playing with my fourth finger. And I'm doing that for the bottom 3 strings. I'm going to skip the third string for a second. On the top strings, I'm doing actually the inverse of the intervals. Now I'm doing 1.5 steps to whole step, but I'm doing it with a 1, 3, 4. That is basically where I got the genesis of this idea, and that's from Paul Gilbert. He's a big 1, 3, 4 guy, in everything, but especially this interval set. Now, the third string, that's a variable because of the changes. Over the E minor, I do 2 whole steps with a 1, 2, 4. Over the A minor, I push up my fourth finger a half step, because that's a chord tone. That's a flat third there. But that's not to say I will not do it over the E minor. In a flurry, it's going to work. It is diatonic, and it works as a nice tension. Now here's the thing I really enjoy about this. So you get something that I picked up this term from Rusty Cooley, clone tone. And I don't know if that's his thing, but whatever. That's where I heard it from. So my highest note is the lowest note of the next string. Now, okay, well, why can't you just play 2 notes on 1 string? Well, you could, but they don't have the same timbre, and that's the cool part. The fact that you have this. Oops. They have different sounds, so when you repeat those notes, it has this illusion that there's something different going on. I mean, there is, but there isn't, but there is. And that's really cool. I am using hybrid picking in there. So let's take that slow. A lot of times I do that. I'll get a legato instance, a double legato, and then hybrid pick the next note. 2 reasons. 1, my finger's sitting right there. The pick is never going to get there faster than that. 2, I was talking about it before. It has a different tone. Now check that out. So what I'm doing there is the same pattern. I'm doing the whole step, step and a half thing. But the note, thanks to the warp refraction zone, that note is actually a half step lower than my highest note. That creates patterns that are kind of opposite to what I'm actually doing. Normally when we play on a lower string and go to the higher string, we get a higher note, but I'm getting a lower note. So it's creating these different kind of melodies while I physically do something I'm very comfortable with. So that's a lot of what's going on throughout the A section. In the B section, where it starts to take off, actually previous to that, right before I go in, I play this very cool Holdsworth Van Halen thing. Now that is comprised of steps and a half, both intervals. First to second finger, step and a half. Second finger to fourth finger, step and a half. It's actually a diminished triad. And I'm doing symmetrical diminished triads. And it's just so much fun to play. And as I play that higher note every time, the higher note on the lower string is higher than the first note I play on the next string every time. And again, I'll just throw this out there. This is something you want to approach slowly. When you start doing this, you're going to feel it here. Going back to what I was saying about taking breaks, You definitely want to be taking breaks as you're trying to break this in, and you want to gradually get into playing like this. Eventually, that burn will go away, just like calluses developed and that sting goes away and stuff. This one, though, you kind of can't hurt yourself in developing calluses, but you could definitely hurt yourself doing this. So please approach it slowly. But that's what's going on with that thing, and then that's how I transition into so that stays with E minor and stuff like that. And one of the other symmetrical things I'm doing, this one I went totally symmetrical because I wanted it to sound kind of out. I wanted to create some tension. So what I'm doing is step and a half to whole step. And I'm doing a lot of that. Doing a lot of slides. Oops. Or stuff like this. If you break down the notes against both of the chords that are in this track, yeah, there's going to be stuff like flat nines and flat sixes. I'm making use of those. You you definitely have to be careful about where you land and where you resolve a lick idea. But the symmetrical thing is a very powerful thing, and it's there's plenty of examples of where it's used effectively, and probably the most effective one is the Van Halen scale. That is made up of whole step, well, ascending half step, whole step. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to play those licks for different scenarios and study those things, whether it's writing articles for Guitar Player, or presenting song lessons, stuff like that. And I tell you, it's unbelievable how he varies that. He never plays it the same way, and there are always these money licks you never forget about, and it's the same symmetrical pattern. It's brilliant. It's amazing. But symmetrical fingerings, that's where it started. That's where a lot of us hear it. That's where you should definitely focus some study on. But him and Alan Holdsworth, the guys like that, which Van Halen said, he was very influenced by him. Later he got even more and more into it. Like this lick is on Girl Gone Bad. From 1984, something like that. That's all Holdsworth. And, Van Halen was very open about that. So that's what's going on here.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool explanation. And that symmetrical licks is something everybody should do, and something that, you can use in a lot of different ways. You might think it's just a simple pattern, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. So let's take a couple questions, man. Let's do a couple questions. This question is what does, following up on the hybrid picking that you just talked about, what does the hybrid picking look like on your right hand? In general, are you alternating between a pick stroke and a finger stroke even as you're going across the neck? Or does that just vary lick to lick?
Definitely varies lick to lick. But let me throw this out there. There's something I call legato picking, or what's the other thing I call it? I have another name for it. Alternate legato. It's kind of the same thing. And we talk about it a lot here in Take 5 legato, and I definitely do it here in these variations, and you'll see them in the transcriptions. So what's going on is it's kind of what I was alluding to before. Let's go back to the stretching thing. Let's go back to the original idea, whole step to a step and a half. So I'm going to, let's say I do down, up, down. Before I was doing two hammer-ons, let's say I do down, up, down. Next stroke on the adjacent string on the first finger is hybrid picking. And then I come back to the lower adjacent string, in this case the sixth string, and I play a hammer-on with the higher two notes. So down, up, down, hybrid, downstroke, hammer-on. So let's say with a symmetrical fingering. What I love about that is the dynamics, how they're like an engine, like pistons going like that. It's not like alternate picking is awesome. I love great alternate picking. I love guys that got it together, and they have this this, like what I think is, I hear is like a printout. You know, like when you hear printers, like, and it's great. It's not a critique at all. I think it's amazing. You know, the guys really have that together. I like this though, because a lot of what I do, you know, these solos are improvised. A lot of things I do is improvised. And because my first loves are progressive rock and jazz, and that's how I learned how to play. So Charlie Parker is a huge influence on me, as anybody who you know, plays jazz and uses jazz as their format, or at least their foundation for improvising. And it's horn players that have that thing. You know, they have a phrasing tool, the way they just, well, they breathe. And they have this dynamic, these varying dynamics in their lines. So that's something I'm trying to go for with this. And also, it feels good. You know, you want to do what feels, you got to find techniques that feel good. And legato is a great feeling one, but you got to find the way that you are going to do it. And you know what? It usually finds you. As you're playing and putting the time in, all of a sudden you're going to lean into something and go, wow, you know, you're going to catch on to it quickly. And don't discount that. Don't sit there and go, oh, that was too easy, so I must be doing something wrong, or I'm cheating. There is no cheating. There is no doing anything wrong. When it comes to you, when it presents itself, hey man, nice to meet you. I'm the technique that you're going to play for the rest of your life, and you're going to sound great. Welcome it, embrace it, rock it.
Nice. Nice. All right, let's do it. We're going to do a couple more questions. Let's do one more question here, because it's a good one. Can you describe one of the first times that you connected your thinking to your playing?
Awesome question. You know what? I actually can tell you at least one place where I knew I started to do it. I had moved back from in 1998. I left New York City. I was living with David Fuzinski, the great jazz rock guitar player, and I came back to New Jersey to shift some gears, and I was playing with a band in this area. And I remember there was a specific gig where it just seemed like, wow, I think what I just played actually put the puzzle together. You know, I walked away feeling like all the studying and all the things I'm supposed to be doing came together. Because previous to that, you know, trying to get stuff together, I had been studying with Fuse, I've been studying with Wayne Krantz, and this wonderful bass player down here, his name is Jerry Carboy, and Vic Juris. I was doing all this at the same time, you know, off and on with these guys. They were giving me all this incredible stuff, you know, and to develop it, there was a time where things didn't sound very good. And listening back to board tapes, remember those? You know, it wasn't connecting. And then it started to around 98. And you know what it is that really made it do that? I stopped thinking, and I stopped also playing for the knowledge. I started using the knowledge, but what I mean is I just started really getting into what I was playing and who I was playing with. And that became the priority, and that's when it started to come together. And the way that I validated it with, in a way that kind of told me that my instincts were right, is because for the first time, people were starting to clap after solos. You know, that before I would think that I just played the coolest thing ever. And oh man, did you check out my altered lick? You know, and no, they didn't. A, no one cares. And B, it stunk. Because I didn't play it very well because I was overthinking it. So to get there, it was really releasing and just kind of giving in. Nice. And that's what started to make sense. And of course, I can tell you this now. Older guys told me at a certain point, you'll believe it when you're ready. So just remember, maybe, you know, I'm the guy in the back of your head. Well, you heard it here first.
That's awesome. Good stuff, man. All right, so we've got one more. We got one more variation to get through. So let's do that. Give us a brief overview of it, and then let's roll the track. Talking about zigzag sliding.
Yeah. So now we're going to get some sliding in. Sliding is a awesome legato technique. And again, I got to go back to, you know, Master Joe on this one. He's just, man, a lot of sliding is a big part of his thing, and it's a big element in his melodies and why I think why they sound so timeless. One of the reasons. So this is going to be a tough technique for us to talk about. Let's check it out. But I can tell you, this is a really personal one for me this is something this is the way I play, and it's really hard to convey. But you know what? I just went for it anyway, and maybe we'll do a whole big course, or maybe we'll talk about this a lot in my channel, which we'll talk about later. Yeah, let's roll this. Let's check it out, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. Give us a little breakdown on that.
Okay, so we know this is in E minor. We're going from E minor to A minor. When we were doing the symmetrical fingerings, we kind of were throwing things out the window when it came to what we're doing over the changes. I mean, I was paying attention to it, but we had a lot of tension notes going in and out and stuff like that, and that was totally premeditated. In this case, I'm approaching the two changes in what's called a vertical approach, a vertical fashion. What that means is a lot of us learn to improvise horizontally, meaning if you're looking at a chart and you have changes and you're going from left to right, like we're reading anything. If we're playing the same scalar idea across as we go across the paper, we're playing the changes horizontally. We're using one melodic idea for multiple harmonic instances. In this case, if we're looking at playing per change, like make believe these are the bars, then we're playing vertically. That's what I'm doing here. So over E minor, I'm thinking E Dorian, and over the A minor, I'm thinking, we can look at this one of two ways, but let's look at it in a parallel fashion. I'm thinking E Aeolian, because those two chords benefit from those things. Now, what am I doing with this technique? I'm using full neck visions, but cells are all over the place. I'm seeing multiple cells. So E. Now what I mean by zigzag sliding is I'll come to areas by way of sliding, and then even when I get there, it's almost like I threw a handball inside of a handball court, or like those rubber balls you get out of the gumball machine. Those are always fun to whip around in the hallways and stuff. It's exactly that same concept, sort of. So again, I'm making these movements. Well, I don't want to play that note. I'm using sliding to get me to the different areas. And when I get there, I use sliding to come back and forth, like even stuff as simple as this. It's very expressive. It's almost like the textbook legato thing. It's like taking a rubber band and doing this. That's the way I perceive it. So what I was doing right there was seeing the neck in E Dorian. And then as the A minor comes in, I'm going into the E Aeolian thing. So, Dorian. I'm blowing over the changes. And I'm doing it with this sliding technique and going all over the place. It's definitely an advanced thing. It's definitely something that you're going to have to, like 1 octave cells would be too limiting you know, that type of idea, and even full-on 6-string vertical scales, positional scales. This is you got to have at least an area of 3 of them. You could use the middle area as, say, the bass. So let's hey, I'll even do it with 1 octave scales, because that's actually a lot of the ways I present it. So 1 octave scale, E minor, do it right here. There's Dorian. Here's the cell below. Here's the cell above. So here's the middle. Cell above. Middle. Oop. Below. It's hard to talk and play that stuff. So that's it. It's probably one of the, you really get into my core. You know, yeah, that's definitely the stuff. You know, like the really, really personal stuff, and one of the things I do all the time. Now mix that, and you saw in the B section where it rocks out, I definitely was using that 12th position symmetrical thing too, but within that I was using a lot of the sliding technique. Actually, we were talking about it before in the other variation, and I actually did it here. But it's all based in that sliding thing, and kind of throwing that rubber ball in that small room, and or just making those transitions from positions with sliding, and then getting there and then doing some zigzag, go somewhere else, zigzag, go somewhere else. And it's a very liquidy type of sound.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds awesome. It's amazing. All right, man. So I know we could keep on going, but we got to wrap this up. So, but we've got questions. We got, everybody's loving what you're showing. A lot of great comments in the chat. Everybody is digging it. So I've got a few questions I want to get to. So let's do this in lightning round fashion. Quick, brief answers. I know that's hard sometimes with some of these things, but give me what you got, because we got a few more questions to get through, and I want to get to these. We got some really good questions here.
Okay.
So let's do it. Here we go. Are you ready?
Ready. Go.
What's the best way to maintain accurate intonation during legato playing?
Fresh strings, tuning guitar. Next. No kidding. Oh, well, that's actually serious.
Yeah.
Fresh strings go a long way. Me and Jeff McElwain, I think we were just kind of joking about this week, how, you know, like fresh strings go on a guitar, and it's like, oh, wow, new guitar. And I hate changing strings, by the way, but fresh strings stretched out, that's probably the most obvious place, an overlooked place where your intonation is going south. It's because your strings are old. It's not even because of the down here at the bridge. That and the light touch. If you press real hard, like if you're trying to really dig in and try to get a legato thing going on, you're really, you know, trying, you're actually going to pull your note sharp. So maybe you can hear it here. So here's a light touch. Here's a G here on the 4th string. Now I'm going to try to press. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. That's my ultimate advice. Fresh strings, light touch.
Awesome. Good stuff. Which course from you would cover the most beginner type legato technique, sort of moving slowly forward? Would it be to take 5?
No, guitar jam, hammer-ons, and pull-offs. Totally.
Perfect.
Starting from level 1, it takes you really from the beginning, and then gets you going to some pretty semi-intense stuff. Guitar Gym, which is now going to be nested inside of Chops, my upcoming channel, will have a lot of what became that course and way more. But I'm also going to fill in the gaps. I'm going to fill in the gaps in all places. I'm going to provide more beginner stuff, more mid-level or intermediate stuff, and more advanced stuff. You know, we're just going to take that and just, there's a lot of new strategies there in Chops. And there's going to be content coming at you. It's going to be a whole new way of doing the Guitar Gym thing that I think we all can agree it works. But yeah, definitely right now, the best place you can go to is that Guitar Gym course for sure.
And when will your channel be launching?
I'm
just trying to get you to commit to that on video.
Ooh, ow, ouch, Jeff. It is coming very soon. We are all working on it very hard. Me the most there. The plan is in August, which actually tomorrow is August 1st. Yeah,
Yes.
we're going for it. That will
It's
be
awesome.
the introduction of chops, which, by the way, thanks to my youngest son, while we were locked in a car for a really long time driving home from Georgia, great story. It's Chris's homemade ongoing performance system.
Nice.
So it's Guitar Gym way more. And
Absolutely. I've been in there and seen it, and I'm telling you, anybody who wants to dig in, there's so much great material in there. I mean, it's just you know, it's a if you didn't touch it again, there's enough stuff in there to last a person forever. And I know you've got a plan to put ongoing stuff in there, so I'm excited to get that thing launched, man.
Yeah, I'm going to bury the TrueFire servers.
Awesome.
I'm absolutely taking them down.
I believe you will. All right, let's a couple more questions. Do you incorporate chordal passing tones in legato playing? Like when you're playing some of that outside stuff, are you thinking about chordal passing tones in there, or is it more of just a pattern?
No, absolutely. I stayed away from playing like that in these. I wanted to stay diatonic, but for instance, I'll do exactly what I just did before. The Dorian versus Aeolian thing, you know, like the full-on neck vision. So there was a lot of instances where chromaticism was connecting, point A to point B, or just creating tension. That's the one thing I left out. Now you're totally in my world. That's really my thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right. So, final question is, who else would you suggest that folks listen to for legato? Who would you say, hey, check out these 3 or 4 artists or these 3 or 4 albums if you really want to dig into legato?
I was doing my homework for this and I was watching my original Take 5 lessons, and in there I named a bunch of guys, but at one point I really named, and totally deservedly so, I totally called out my friend Tom Quayle, and I actually recorded off of my screen and sent it to him because I forgot I did that. So hopefully it made his day. He seemed pretty happy about it. So Tom Quayle, you definitely got to check out Tom. I mean, probably a lot of you already have. I mean, his legato playing just takes things to a completely different level. But also guys like Brett Garsed, Daryl Gable. These guys are fantastic, melodic, dangerous legato players. Go back to, Father Joe, Satriani, and, and Halsworth, God rest his soul. Of course, those guys are massive in that department. Bumblefoot, my fellow New Jersey native. His legato technique is just off the chart as well. And there's another, fellow TrueFire instructor, Rusty Cooley. When he's not picking and he feels like playing legato, I mean, he's just going to peel your face off. He's just going to destroy everything. And he's a great one to check out, the 4 note per string thing. His facility with that, and Brett Garsed as well, and Halsworth. That's really taking stuff to the next level. Album-wise, I mean, anything you pick up, I lived those first, Not of This Earth, Surfing with the Alien, Flying into Blue Dream, The Extremist. Those 4 Satriani records right there. And man, I really love that. I think the 5th one was Joe Satriani, the self-titled one. They're all great, but those first records, that'll get you going. Anything Halsworth put out, anything. I have to say, I love that live record. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is. But these guys I'm talking about, you go to anything that they recorded and you're going to hear incredible legato playing, from all of these guys. It's bonkers. I was just checking out, really getting into Sons of Apollo, Bumblefoot's thing. And, man, he has lost nothing. Because when he was younger, he was trying to peel the paint off, and he's still doing it. All these guys, super inspiring. So definitely check out all those dudes.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And of course, everyone should check out all of your stuff too, because, you're peeling a little paint occasionally on your own. And we appreciate that. Once again, man, thanks for being here, for doing this. You are, once again, longtime TrueFire educator, professor of the deep, have been here, done it all. We're super stoked about the new channel that's going to be coming out, and hopefully, once again, we'll be able to get you down to the studio to do some recording once we're able to do that again. But thanks for being here and sharing all your knowledge. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. Tommy, Brad, Allie, everybody at TrueFire doing their thing. Thank you all for tuning in. I can't wait to see you during, when CHOPS opens up and in that environment. That's going to be a lot of fun. And by the way, it's 40 courses. That's the real number. And I'm not done yet. See you soon.
Nice. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, man. We appreciate it. That is Chris Buono, everybody. Thank you. I think there's a few minutes left. If you want to buy tonight, everything you've seen tonight, which has been awesome and amazing, insight into, two incredibly unique styles, Angus, the way Angus plays, the way Chris plays, go to the link below the chat. Last chance to pick it up for 50% off. This will all be put together in a course, all tabbed out, all put in the TrueFire player, TrueFireized, some really cool stuff. So go check that out. Pick up the course tonight. Of course, support both of these guys. Amazing players that come here and work hard and put this night together for us. But thank you, all of you folks that are watching, all of TrueFire students. We're so appreciative of your continued support of everything that we do. We love being able to present this stuff and bring it to you. So thank you so much for being here, guys. And look for some really cool new stuff coming out. There is a massive series of online academy camps, boot camps that's going to hit in August. And I think you're going to totally dig it. We really put together an amazing online experience. So get ready for that. It's late wherever you are probably. So it's time to turn out the lights at camp, snuggle up in your sleeping bag, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out.